welcome. Welcome to the best 5-minute wine podcast with Forrest Kelly.
Sometimes I'll call people that I know great wine and make great wine, and I will ask them, do you have any wine available? And they'll be like, no, or they say yes, and I taste with them, take a photograph of it, write it up, and we send an email. Or some people will call and say, hey, can I come taste with you? And they might bring, a case or two of wine and pour it for me. And I'll usually pick about 1 out of every 10 wines I taste. At the end of the day, it's a tough market, and the reason why people trust me is because I kiss the frogs so you don't have to. I taste 9 wines, and I might like 5 out of the 10, but there's 1 out of 10 that really makes sense in terms of price and quality and lineage. And there's 100,000 wines that you can buy in the American market. You're going to find 300 or 400 a year from me that are worth considering, and they're going to make you happy because they've been scrutinized and gone through my filter, which is arguably one of the more difficult to get past because I'm very particular and just want the wine to really make somebody feel like they made a good bet with their money. If you spent $35 on a bottle of wine, it should bring you a lot of pleasure because that, it's a lot of money to spend on something. You should go to thecaublist.com to drink better, to elevate your wine life, and to know that you're making a good bet with your money. You're not going to have to kiss any frogs because we already did it. And, if you want to spend smart with your money and you want to drink great wines, there's no better place.
Because, the new generations are not drinking alcohol specifically, but wine sales are just dropping. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think a lot of the premium price points just need to be corrected. I think over the last 15 to 20 years, the price points in a lot of these wines have gotten really high. And I think that it just doesn't make sense for the current economy. I think between how much people are making and how much money premium wine costs, it's tough to be able to afford to buy a $40 or $50 bottle of wine for some people, let alone a $250 to $500 bottle. So I think there's going to be a price correction. It's just, I think, economics at the end of the day. And I think people, are obviously focused on maybe being a little bit healthier, but at the end of the day, I think it's a lot easier to make a cocktail in terms of, you can make a cocktail at home for $2 versus spending $5 to $6 on a good glass of wine. But I think when people start to learn about wine and learn about the pleasure and the history and all of these special areas and these grape varieties that are planted deep into these old, places of the world that have been 250 million years of geological history, and then you plant this grape that spent 100 years digging deep into the soil, and each plant makes 1 bottle worth of grapes. These are incredible stories, and I think when people really open up the experience of life and really start to look at the potential of pleasure through taste, wine is irreplaceable. There's something, I think, mentally stimulating about it, the history and the people and the stories behind it, but and also with the taste and the taste experience. And you can take a small sip of wine, and this kaleidoscope of information can come through a glass of wine, and it tells a story. I mean, that's the interesting thing about blind tasting is you can take a smell and a taste of a wine, and it tells you sometimes exactly in the world where it came from. And that's pretty incredible to be able to put your nose in a glass and taste something, and there's enough information that you can actually pinpoint on a map where it comes from.
What's one wine fact that almost nobody believes until you prove it?
Oh, okay. I'll tell you. What's one wine fact that nobody believes until I prove it? That it's illegal to water the vines in France.
There you go. Especially because, it's legal. Irrigation is legal here in the United States.
Yeah. And a lot of people in Napa will tell you that you can't make wine in Napa without irrigation, but that's false as well. So there's a lot of great dry farmed vineyards in Napa, particularly Frog's Leap and Dominus. But there are certain areas of the mountains that, like, the vineyards are on rock, right? It's very difficult to grow grapes because there's no groundwater. But in general, in Italy, it's illegal to water vines. And in France, it's illegal to water vines, where if you actually took a hose out to your vineyard and you got caught, you would lose your ability to call that wine, that appellation that year. So if you were making Bordeaux from St. Julien, for example, and it was a really hot vintage, and you saw your grape struggling, and you brought a hose out into the vineyard, they would make you call that Vin de France.
Oh, that's funny. I'm just picturing the inspector asleep, leaning up against the wall asleep, and then suddenly, 100 miles away, he hears a hose move, and he's on it.
Totally. It's really interesting. I mean, in France, there's almost 500 AOCs. They're called appellation d'origine contrôlée, or protégée now. And each one of these 480 some odd appellations, there's rules on the grape you can grow, how many vines per hectare, so how many vines per 10,000 meters, and the amount of juice you can squeeze off of that, and the aging requirements, etc. So, they're very serious about their wine, very serious about their cheese, and that's a reason why when you buy a bottle of wine, it means something. And there's a kind of an AOC on there, and it's basically tells you that this person followed the rules of this area to call it this, and you were expecting a certain level of quality.
Thank you for listening.